My name's Jessica, but everyone just calls me Jess. I'm 32 years old, and recently, I cheated on my husband and got pregnant. Now, my husband's trying to kill me. Intrigued? Well, let me spill the tea. I'm half Brazilian, half Ukrainian, but by nationality, I'm American. I've got tan skin, a fit body with a curvy chest, dark curly hair, and big blue eyes. I've been happily married to Peter, who's 45, for 10 years now. We met when I was 22, studying at the University of Arizona. Peter was my history professor, and despite the age gap, we instantly hit it off. He was not only smart and charismatic, but incredibly caring. Peter's tall, a white American with a strong build and neatly kept short hair. His blue eyes often sparkle with wisdom and kindness. He usually dresses in a classic, understated style, pressed trousers, shirts, and sometimes a blazer. He wears a simple, elegant watch and always carries a leather briefcase. Peter always wanted kids, but unfortunately, we couldn't have any. Instead of dwelling on it, we decided to travel. Over the past 3 years, we've explored many corners of Europe and Asia, soaking in the culture, cuisine, and new experiences. Peter's successful and well off, making life with him very comfortable. But life, as they say, has a funny way of throwing you curveballs. One evening, after returning from one of our trips, we got an invitation to a party from one of Peter's old friends. I decided to let my hair down a bit and agreed to go. The party was lively, full of familiar faces and some new ones. Peter was busy chatting with his buddies, so I found myself mingling and having a good time. Somewhere during the night, someone handed me a drink. I didn't think much of it, but after a few sips, I started to feel unusually light and euphoric. My inhibitions went out the window, and I found myself drawn to a tall, dark-haired stranger. His name was Axel, and he was a very attractive Latino guy with a muscular build. He wore a tight black shirt that showed off his physique, dark jeans, and a silver chain that caught the light with every move he made. We started talking, and before I knew it, we were dancing way too close. As the night went on, I was overwhelmed with a desire for wild, uninhibited sex. I cheated on Peter with Axel in a dark corner of the party. It was raw, primal, and nothing like what I'd ever experienced with Peter. The guilt hit me right after, but the damage was already done. A few weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. My first thought was to get an abortion. But before I could make a decision, Peter discovered my pregnancy. He was thrilled, thinking our prayers had finally been answered. I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth, and I was torn between the guilt and the joy in his eyes. The situation got even messier when I ran into Axel again. He was just as irresistible as before, and despite my better judgment, we started meeting regularly. Our encounters were filled with intense BDSM sessions, something I'd never dared explore with Peter. Axel insisted on anonymity, asking me to only call him by his first name. The thrill and danger of our meetings were addictive. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. But secrets have a way of coming out. Peter, being the attentive husband he was, noticed the changes in me. One day, he managed to get into my phone, Instagram, and WhatsApp. He logged in from his phone and started tracking everything. He gathered as much information as he could about Axel and even found out about his wife. Consumed by rage and betrayal, Peter began planning their murder. He carefully plotted how to do it, preparing everything needed for a brutal takedown in an abandoned warehouse, but Peter didn't know that 2 years ago, I caught him cheating. I never confronted him about it, but the betrayal festered inside me. My affair with Axel was a way to cope and, in a twisted sense, get back at Peter. Axel, being a former military man, was more than capable of defending himself. When Peter arrived at the warehouse, he found Axel and me waiting for him. We were ready. Axel had anticipated Peter's moves and set up a few surprises. The warehouse was equipped with cameras capturing every moment. Axel brought along some friends, also ex-military, who were hidden in the shadows, ready to step in if things got out of hand. Peter's face twisted in confusion and rage as he realized he'd been outplayed. Axel stepped forward, his posture relaxed, but ready for anything. Did you really think you could get away with this? Axel's voice was cold, full of disdain. Peter lunged at Axel, but his friends emerged from the shadows, restraining him. I watched, my heart pounding, as they disarmed him and took away his tools. Axel turned to me, his expression softened. You okay? He asked, genuine concern in his voice. I nodded, tears streaming down my cheeks. In the end, Peter's actions led to his downfall. Axel and I had enough evidence to turn over to the authorities. Peter was arrested, and the truth about his affair and his murder plans came out. It was a media scandal, with reporters camped outside our house, trying to get a scoop. Life took an unexpected turn after that. Axel and I decided to go into hiding. We couldn't trust the justice system to protect us from Peter's potential allies or the backlash from the scandal. For months, we lived in different cities, always looking over our shoulders, trying to stay ahead of any threats. Eventually, Axel's military background and our evidence led to his acquittal. The trial was long and exhausting. But in the end, justice prevailed. Axel was found not guilty, and we were finally able to return to a normal life. We moved to a small town, far away from the prying eyes of the media and the shadows of our past. We started rebuilding our lives. Axel found work as a security consultant, and I opened a small art studio. We tried to move forward, enjoying the moments of peace and quiet. We even talked about starting a family again, the hope of a new beginning lighting up our days. One evening, as we were enjoying a quiet dinner at home, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find a young woman standing there, her eyes wide with fear and desperation. She introduced herself as Clara, Axel's estranged sister. She was on the run, hiding from an abusive partner, and Axel was the only one she could trust. We took Clara in, and she quickly became part of our family. Her presence brought a new dynamic to our lives, filled with laughter, love, and sometimes chaos. Axel was incredibly caring towards her, and together we helped her heal. Clara soon became an inseparable part of our home. We did everything together: cooking, cleaning, family game nights. Axel gave her a lot of attention, helping her adjust to her new life. I tried not to be jealous, understanding that he was just caring for her like a sister. But sometimes, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that there was more between them. One night, I woke up to strange noises coming from Clara's room. At first, I thought she was having a nightmare. But as I got closer, I realized the sounds were more intense, more passionate. My heart pounded as I quietly cracked open the door, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Axel and Clara were together, having rough sex. Axel had her by the hair and was covering her mouth to muffle her screams. The sight, the raw reality of what was happening, made my stomach churn. I felt a wave of dizziness and nausea. My vision blurred, and I felt myself losing consciousness. The last thing I heard were Clara's muffled moans and the sound of my own heart pounding in my ears. When I came to, I was lying on the couch in the living room. The room was dimly lit, and I could hear hushed voices coming from the kitchen. My head was pounding, and a deep sense of dread settled in my chest. Slowly sitting up, I tried to piece together what had happened. Images of Axel and Clara flashed in my mind, and I felt another wave of nausea. I stood up, unsteady, and made my way to the kitchen. Axel and Clara were there, their faces etched with worry and guilt. Axel rushed to me, his eyes filled with concern. "Jess, are you okay? You fainted. We were so worried." I looked at him, my mind reeling. What? What was that? What were you doing with Clara?" My voice trembled, barely above a whisper. Clara stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Jess, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. Axel and I have a complicated history. We were trying to work through some things, and it got out of control." I shook my head, trying to comprehend her words. "Complicated history? What are you talking about?" Axel took a deep breath, his face full of pain. "Clara and we were together before I met you. It was a dark time in our lives. She came to me for help, and old feelings resurfaced. But what you saw was a mistake. My mind was spinning. The man I thought I knew, the one I trusted, had been hiding this dark secret from me. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep this from me? I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and despair. Axel's eyes were filled with regret. I was scared, Jess. Scared of losing you, scared of hurting you. Clara and I thought we could handle it on our own, but we were wrong. Clara stepped closer, her voice pleading. Jess, please, we never wanted you to find out like this. We were trying to work through our issues, but things just got out of hand. I'm so sorry. I felt a storm of emotions raging inside me: anger, betrayal, sadness. You both betrayed me. How am I supposed to trust you again? Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the house was palpable. I couldn't look at Axel or Clara without feeling a stab of pain. Axel tried to talk to me, to explain and apologize, but I couldn't bring myself to listen. The betrayal cut too deep, the wound too fresh. Clara moved out, sensing that her presence was only making things worse. She found a small apartment nearby and continued her work as a consultant. Axel and I were left to pick up the pieces of our shattered marriage. We started seeing a marriage counselor, hoping to salvage what was left of our relationship. The sessions were exhausting, full of raw emotions and painful confessions. Axel opened up about his past with Clara. Revealing the depth of their connection and the darkness they shared, I learned to express my feelings, to confront the anger and pain that had been festering inside me. It was a slow, painful process, but I began to see glimmers of hope. Axel was determined to make things right, and I wanted to believe that we could find our way back to each other. Months passed, and the wounds started to heal. Axel and I began rebuilding our relationship, one step at a time. We went on dates, rediscovered what we loved about each other, and slowly rebuilt the trust that had been shattered. It wasn't easy, but we were committed to making it work. Clara remained a part of our lives, but the boundaries were clear. She continued her work and focused on her own healing. We all knew that things would never be the same, but we found a way to coexist. One evening, sitting with Axel on the porch, watching the sunset, he took my hand. Jess, I know I hurt you, and I can never take back what happened. But I want you to know that I'm committed to us, to our future. I love you more than anything, and I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and determination there. I love you too, Axel. We've been through so much, but we're still here. Let's take it one day at a time. Together, we kissed, sealing our promise to each other. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace. The road ahead would be difficult, but we had found our way back to each other. And for now, that was enough. Life moved on, full of ups and downs, but we faced them together. Axel and I continued to grow, learning from our past and building a stronger, more resilient relationship. Clara found happiness in her own life, and the shadows of the past slowly faded. But one night, as we were enjoying a quiet dinner at home, there was another knock on the door. Standing on the threshold was Clara, her eyes filled with fear and desperation. She said her ex had found her and was threatening her. We couldn't turn her away, so we took her in again. Her presence once more altered the dynamic in our home. The tension grew, and I began to notice that Axel was spending more and more time with Clara. I tried not to be jealous, understanding that he just wanted to help her, as he had before. But one night, I woke up to strange noises coming from Clara's room. As I got closer, I heard the same sounds I'd heard before. My heart raced, and I quietly opened the door a crack. And there, once again, I saw Axel and Clara engaged in rough sex. At that moment, I realized I would never be able to fully trust them. My head spun, and I fainted again. I woke up on the couch, and this time I knew I couldn't take it anymore. I made the decision to end this nightmare once and for all. The next morning, I packed my things and left, leaving everything behind. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing: I would no longer be a victim. This story ends here, but my life is just beginning. I know there will be new challenges ahead, but I'm ready for them. Because now I know I can handle anything that comes my way.